Well, what is up, EKN Nation? How are you? Rob Howden here alongside David Cole for a new edition of our face-to-face show. It's been a while since we've been here on YouTube. Been pretty busy trackside, a bunch of different events on all the different coasts of the country, north, south, east, west. We've been all over the place doing events. But back at it here because really the season started, David Cole, and it's time to get busy, man. We got a lot of racing happening as we roll into April now, the regular season, if you will.
Yeah, basically the winter was over with when we got done with March, and now we've turned the calendar over to April. You know, we're almost halfway through the month already. I was gone for half of it, so it's kind of catching up to me real quick. And so we're basically into the summer season, spring and summer.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. You know, in the winter season, January, February, and March, of course, two-cycle racing kind of dominated the action, at least for where we were trackside with the Super Karts USA Winter Series, of course, with the Challenge of the Americas Rock Cup program on the West Coast. Dave went to the opening round of the US PKS as well. While that was happening, and a lot of the same weekends, a lot of four-cycle racing got going as well. For those of you in the four-cycle world, the Briggs world, Cup Karts North America, of course, one of the primary programs, if not the primary program in the country, the biggest race of the year every year, the Grand Nationals in October. Big news coming out there as well. And we'll get into that, David. That's kind of what's going on here right now is we're going to talk Cup Karts North America, David. And it's when we talk about Operation Grassroots and how the sport has kind of grown and developed and strengthened, I think, over the last couple of years, it goes down to Briggs and then it goes to the Cup Karts North America program.
Really? We're coming up to the 10th anniversary of me racing my first 206 at the Rock Island Grand Prix.
Wow.
So a full decade of Briggs racing. And so it's strange that it's gone that quick. You know, it just seems like yesterday I was sitting there with the Burrell cart sitting, in my garage, putting it together, getting ready to go to Rock Island by myself, mind you, with no experience whatsoever with the engine, no experience with the cart, and just kind of just roll it out the trailer and go have some fun. And, awesome. Ever since then I've been hooked. And then we got you on board with it. Yeah. And the next year when we raced against each other. And so now it's kind of been, very, that it's kind of rejuvenated both not only our thoughts on grassroots racing, but I think obviously across the United States and Canada for sure.
Yeah, it really has. We always talk about the fact that the Briggs 206 pressed the reset button in terms of club racing across both U.S. and David said in Canada as well. I raced in Canada, all my earlier years, and Honda, that was the engine we ran. The GX 160, the GX 200 were the engines that we ran. Overhead valve engines, very similar, but the Briggs, of course, a engine built for racing from Briggs Motorsports, from Briggs Racing, and that's why it's been so big. And of course, the price point is amazing. Spec engine for those of you who may be into the program. But again, we talked about it. This is all about Cup Karts North America. It's something that's happened over the last couple of years. It's been a fantastic program into their 6th Grand Nationals this year. They started with their own series, the Champions Cup, and now there's a South Series, a North Series. And the primary focus, David, for this particular edition of Face to Face is really for the first time. 25 years I've been doing this. I remember Scusa, was up in Canada for like a couple of years with a regional program, but to be honest, this is it's Cup Karts North America, and it truly is now with the new Cup Karts Canada program. Gerald Caseley is going to join us. Greg Jasperson are waiting in the wings. This is big, I think, for the sport to be able to have that connection. Not just, hey, we all race Briggs, but man, under the same rule set and under the same kind of culture as well with CKNA.
Yeah, it's a unique situation and program that's going because, again, like you said, there hasn't been very many programs that have gone both countries. WK, I don't think they've had a lot of racers from Canada, but I don't think they ever really hosted races in Canada. But Stars, they did a couple races in Canada, but never really had a footing. They had a lot of racers from Canada, but never really a series. Now, this organization, Cup Karts North America, we always wondered, why did you add the North America? Well, they've added the North America because now they have both programs in the United States and Canada.
That's it. Let's bring him in right now. Gerald Caseley and Greg Jasperson. Of course, those of you who know Cup Karts North America know Greg Jasperson. He and Steve Vermeer, the owners of the Cup Karts North America program. I've known Gerald Caseley for quite a while, actually. Gerald's one of the major players in terms of karting in Canada. Actually built my engine, I believe, my Briggs for the 2015 Canadian Grand Nationals, I think it was. Gerald from East Coast Karting. Gerald, both of you guys first, thank you so much for taking some time out of your evening here on a Wednesday to be with us.
Thanks. Glad to be here, Rob.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for doing it.
Well, this is it. So this is, we've been kind of waiting for this a little bit. We had the article out, but I want to find out. Obviously, Cup Karts Canada. This is an amazing deal for the people that run in Canada, and just overall to be able to bring everything together. Gerald, let's start with you. How did this happen? Like, what was the motivation for you to say, listen, this is where I want to go? I got to get with Greg. What pushed you? I know that at one point you and I talked about you were having a shootout race, a Can-Am shootout race that COVID kind of kicked in the teeth. But where did this come from?
So yeah, initially pre-COVID. I've been in racing for probably 35 plus years. Always been a 4-cycle guy. It's kind of in my blood. So in pre-COVID, I actually wanted to have a series specifically for the 4-cycle guys, where they were the show. And so I talked to a track, and we started to put it together. And I actually called Greg and said, I'm thinking of doing this. Do you think you could help me out with perhaps tickets to your Grand Nationals for our winners? So I thought that would be a carrot at the end of the rainbow, such thing. So anyway, to make a long story short, COVID came along and kind of crunched that. Got hooked up with Greg again, was going to Florida this year to the sunny south. So I said, set up a meeting to meet with him at Winter Nationals. So, and under the same assumption that I could get perhaps tickets to his race to give to my winners. And he said, sure, no problem, let's chat. So I beat her down to Florida for January 1st, and I met with Greg and Steve Amir. And we started talking, about what I was going to do and stuff like that. And as we started talking, I started to think that Greg Jasperson has a lot of the same thoughts and about 4-cycle racing as I do, and what his program is. So we talked more, and he said basically, during the talk that there was no problem to get tickets, to help out. But then he said, well, we've been thinking of coming to Canada. What's your thoughts of, doing a CKNA deal in Canada, Cup Karts Canada? And, as all of us in racing, we all think we know what's right and we know what the real deal is. So I thought, yeah, I'd perhaps entertain that, but mostly, I have my own ways and what I think the program should look like. So we chatted for, I guess it was 3 or 4 hours, Greg, that day. So I said, let me sleep on this and I'll get back to you by Sunday. And I think this was maybe Friday. So I purposely watched the program for 2 days. And, man, I was impressed. It was very professional. For 4-cycle racing, it was kind of what I'd like to do. So on Sunday I went back to him and said, yeah, what you said about perhaps doing a Cup Karts Canada thing, let's entertain that a little bit more. So we chatted again and kind of shook hands at that time and said, yeah, let's do something. And for the next month, we hashed it out back and forth and figured out some of the finer details. And that's Cup Karts Canada was born at that time, or Cup Karts Division Canada. And we've been just working on our 2 races that we're going to have. And basically, that's the deal.
So officially, it's Cup Karts North America Canada Division. Greg, is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same way? Is that kind of how I always love how things happen like this, right? You never know how a series starts. Whether it's in a bar somewhere with a couple of guys talking about what to do, one person with the motivation to make something happen. But obviously Gerald hustles down from the cold tundra of Canada to Florida for a race weekend, and something really big happens. Greg, your first thoughts of Gerald when he first came down? Did you see that there was maybe a spark that this could move? Was this something you really guys were looking for if it wasn't for Gerald?
So obviously it's always been on the radar to go to Canada. I could probably, if I knew how to share my screen, pull up an email. I believe you giving me a hard time about calling our series Cup Karts North America without having a Canadian race.
No.
So yeah, it's been on our radar for quite some time.
I love it.
And when Gerald reached out pre-COVID about doing his event, we kind of thought that might be our gateway. And then COVID happened. Obviously, we all kind of had to worry about what we had going on ourselves. So when Gerald came back and said he was interested in doing something again and wanted to get his deal going again, Steve and I thought, you know what, now's the time. We had great momentum coming off of Grand Nationals 5. Really, the season in general just went so well that we thought,
the spring that's massive.
Yeah, so now we felt now was the time. If we were really going to try to step on the gas and try to grow this deal, and try to get more racers attracted, because truly our biggest thing in doing this, I mean, there's such a draw for trying to get everybody together for one big race. And that has become Grand Nationals. So if we can get more of the Canadian racers accustomed to the way we do things, where it won't be such system shock from what they're used to for when they come to race with us, I think with the first year the Canadians all came, we had 40 or 50 of them. I expect that to double, if not triple, this year, because we're going to have so many racers that are now used to our program and understand how we do things.
So before we jump into the dates, that's a good segue, I think. How's that going to play? How is Cup Karts Canada going to be? Is there going to be any differences at all, or Gerald, do you plan to try to kind of run exactly the way they run things?
So for this year, what we've decided, so it's not a huge culture shock, to do a hybrid, we'll say, set of rules. Yep. And there's not a lot of difference. Like, I went through Greg's rule book, a dozen or 24 times, and the more I read it, the more it's awful close to what we do, other than a couple of, our tires, of course, are different. Mm-hmm. Our track width is different. So this year, basically, we're going to run the blue tire Vega for this year in Canada, and we're going to run at 50-inch track width. Other than that, there's some minute, safety stuff, a little bit here and there. But other than that, I think that's pretty well it, isn't it, Greg? And in 2022, we plan on going completely CKNA rules.
23.
23, sorry. Yeah. I'm still pre-COVID, right?
I get it.
But 2023, it'll be 100%.
Okay.
Their rules type thing. So, like I went 4 races this year, the CKNA stuff down south, and like I say, whatever the culture is that Greg has figured out, I just hope I can bring that to Canada, because it's like, to me, it's old school, cool 4-cycle racing, and that's what I want to bring back to the 4-stroke community.
Is the Vega blue tire something that's already used in Canada? For those of us who don't know what's used up there,
that's what's been used in Canada for quite a few years, and it would have been pretty tough to bring a new tire in. I mean, a couple of things, I think, because of the global supply chain issue and trying to get something, right away. So we're going to stick with that tire this year, and then next year go full on Cup Kart. The CKNA rulebook is going to be the rulebook.
You mentioned trying to get that culture that Greg and Steve have been able to develop in their program, right? With a big draw, just the feel of the race. You want to get that up into what you're going to be doing, right? The races, by the way, we didn't really jump into that yet. June 24, 25, 26 at Pointe de Lac in Quebec, and July 22nd, 23rd at Goodwood Kartways, the legendary track in Goodwood, Ontario, just a little bit west of Toronto. So to get this culture, I think we hinted on it in the press release, the initial press release. Are you going to bring some of the guys up? Is Greg and some of the crew going to be up at your races, Gerald, to actually be there physically?
Yeah, Greg's going to be there for sure. Their race director's coming up. Their announcer is going to be up there. Dave Mack.
Hold on. Is there a casino nearby the racetracks?
Well, within an hour, I think. So, and of course, Steve is coming up with his complete tech people. Wow, okay. So we're going to have the 3 tech people that do CKNA that'll do our races, and then Greg and them are coming up. We put in place I think a fairly good official. People doing. We have, for those in Canada will know what I'm talking about, the Quebec flaggers, the flaggers that help out with the Formula 1 race. Yep. Same with the grid people. So we're hoping, everything everything can come off and we can create what Greg does in the U.S.
Class structure, one of the things that's a little different, like nomenclature for one thing. I know that we name different things normally in Canada that we always have. Great laughing, you boys laughing about that.
We're working on it.
Cadet, junior light, junior, senior light, senior medium, senior heavy, master, all part of the program. Here's David throwing up the class structure that we'll have at the Cup Karts Canada division here in 2022. You can see a lot of the stuff there. And of course, you can always go to the Cup Karts website, or make sure if you're tuning in here and you're maybe a US driver or like who wants to come up and run a couple of these races, because I'm telling you, Point the Lock, fantastic track. Same with Goodwood, legendary facility, a lot of fun to run. You can obviously join up on their Facebook page for sure to get a lot of information. But Gerald, there's the lineup. Is this? Will we see some nomenclature change for 2023? Are we going to see the sportsman name get in there, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah, we're just not used to it. Like light and heavy was and stuff like that. Junior light, junior. That's what we ran for 30 years at least, right?
Yeah, I again we did that for the Canada for the first year because of it's what we use, the classes we use here, and we didn't want to really shoot ourselves in the foot by not including them people, and we want to include everybody. I think one cool thing about classes that I see in the U.S. that we don't do much here in Canada, but I hope we start with this, is most people in the senior classes run two.
Yeah.
You get your senior guy that runs medium, or your medium guy that runs heavy, or your master guy that runs legends. And we have no legends this year, but next year we're hoping, for legends.
I think you'll see. I think you'll see a bunch of legend guys for sure. Dave,
just for those who again aren't from Canada and understand the junior side of things, why are there two different junior categories? Like you have put up here. You have the junior light sportsman, and then you have junior CIK. So we'll kind of explain the differences. Obviously, there's different slides, but very similar age group.
Yeah, basically it's. Some kids at 11 years old are 55 pounds, and some kids at 12 and 13, 14 years old they couldn't meet that weight. So I think it's more a size thing. The smaller kids get to run without 100 pounds of lead on their go-kart. And where I come from, we only run one junior class because the club just doesn't have enough people. But when you go to Ontario and that, there's enough to run a big class of each. So.
Yeah,
and I think,
David, it really comes down to that. It's almost like a light and heavy within it, right? Within that, with the way it works, and it actually works really, really well, to be honest.
And drivers. Sorry, go ahead, Greg.
I was going to say, in the conversations that Gerald and I had when we were working all this out, I think there's some opportunities for us to adjust our class structure as well. I don't think for 2023. It's still a little bit of a work in progress because we want to see how things work out on both sides of it. But kind of the envision that we have right now is that both class structures are going to kind of merge. So it's not going to be that Canada is going to adopt the American or the American's going to adopt the Canadian. We kind of see this as there's an opportunity to kind of merge them both together and have a not completely, but a slightly adjusted from what we've been doing currently, because quite frankly, I see a lot of benefits to what their Canadians are doing in those youth classes, having a little bit more of a stepping stone in there.
I like that. I agree.
And the drivers are only allowed to race one of those classes. They can't double dip like the senior drivers.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing, folks, if you're tuning in here right now, if you have any questions for either Greg or Gerald regarding the Cup Karts Canada Division program, feel free to post them up here, whether you're on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook. We'll try to bring those into the show as well if you do have any questions. Gerald, anything else you want to get out there right now before we maybe talk about what's going on south of the border?
No, just that our races are going to be explain and just what I liked about the CKNA's, their business model or their culture is, for instance, their prizes. They give away tons of prizes. They give back a ton, and they do that through their drivers' meeting through a draw, versus front loading it to the guys that win the races. Like the guys that win the races are going to get trophies. They're going to win a championship, But if you get a 18th, 20th, 23rd place guy, and he wins a generator and goes home with a generator, all of a sudden finish 23rd and you got a generator, still a good time, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
You don't have to win the race.
Toolbox,
Or Milwaukee toolbox,
or computers, and,
or cheese balls. But anyway, that's a.
Can we get cheese balls up there, or do I have to import those?
You'll have to bring.
I think we use all that to make curds for poutine. I'm sorry.
Exactly. So anyway, and again, that's the stuff that I want to bring into it. The fun. We plan like the race in Quebec at Pointe du Lac is on Saint Jean de Baptiste weekend. So we're going to have a big fireworks. There's the campground, and there's a water park right beside. We're trying to engage a lot of fun things, as well as, we want to be competitive. We want it to be hard racing, but we also want it to be fun and enjoyable.
Cole, is that you checking your calendar?
Yeah, it's not on my calendar.
No, it's not on your calendar, but it is a pretty popular holiday.
I know that the Goodwood race is not on my calendar either, because it's like an open weekend within about 9 straight weekends. But Gerald keeps busting my butt.
It will be on his calendar.
Every time. I will say this, guys. I'm just going to jump over to it here. The minute we posted this up that we were doing this, Dave and I got an email from Dan Roach from Briggs, which I thought was fantastic, and he was very excited about this. Just thinks this is awesome to have the CKNA and the Canadian program kind of coming together. And Gerald, you could speak about it a little bit, because obviously when you and I, as I said, you handled my engine for the Canadian Nationals back in 2015 when I ran with Kevin Monteith's team at Goodwood. But Briggs they've been really, really supportive of Canadian karting as well. Again, that big move from Honda kind of over to Briggs. They stepped in there in a big way. Canada played a really big role, a pivotal role, I think, in the development of the 206 program. Yeah. Probably even more so even with the CIK chassis, right? CIK chassis has obviously become the number one thing in CKNA, but a lot of times before that, it was the full bodywork stuff. Everything that happened in Canada, because they didn't have that, it was all fully CIK as soon as the Briggs came rolling. Yeah.
No. I mean, Briggs, in my mind, and I could be a little biased, but it basically saved four-stroke racing in Canada.
I agree.
Back, I think it was 12 or 11 when we brought the program in, I went to the Canadian Nationals, and there was 13 people, I believe, in senior at the Canadian Nationals in four-stroke, and it was just it wasn't working. Once the Briggs came in, it started to build, and I mean, now pretty well at every major race in Canada, the Briggs are, if we're not 50% of the entries, we're more.
Yeah.
And it's close racing, it's affordable racing. It's just they've done a lot to keep, four-stroke racing alive, but I believe karting in general alive, because it's the grassroots. It's where you bring your customer in and you qualify your customer, and that's kind of how most people come through. So,
well, yeah, we've used the term, the fact that it's lowered the barrier of entry so much, right? For people coming in, it's just so easy to bolt that thing on out of the box. I ran at Rock Island that one year, pulled it right out of the box, bolted it on a cart that Brian McCaddy gave me, and I think I qualified 8th or something like that. It was right. It was the same thing with you, David. Right out of the box.
10 years ago, yeah.
So a couple quick things here. Right?
Finished 5th at Rock Island. I beat Greg.
I finished 2nd and didn't beat Greg. 3rd. I think I finished 3rd. I finished 4th.
3rd. He finished 2nd.
No, because I think Jeff Scott got me to that on that race. I think they both drafted by me. Tony Nielsen.
You're telling me that there was 2 years I finished?
Hold on. This is interesting, because this Karting TV says Greg used to run Rock Island. Will he ever make a return?
Doubtable, to be honest with you. There's not enough weekends anymore. I would love to. My goal this year is to at least show up and watch, because I haven't even done that for a couple years.
I've been busy.
And we all know what'll happen as soon as I show back up.
That's exactly right. He's not on the show, but Steve Vermeer does comment and say CKNA has always been a work in progress, which is definitely true, which is awesome about it. Any good program is always evolving. And just to confirm, Steve McAvoy says we do have cheese balls.
Good. I really wouldn't want to explain that at the border crossing.
I thought you were talking about cheese balls. You meant puffy cheese balls. I get that now. All right, we'll come back a little more Canada in a bit. Let's transition into Cup Karts in the U.S. Greg, again, you talked about how awesome things were last year, not only with the Grand Nationals, but man, the debut of the Spring Nationals with a massive turnout at Charlotte. Then, of course, you had the huge turnout again at the Grand Nationals at Newcastle. This year's going to be fantastic as well. Let's talk about the track and the event that you guys met at, the Winter Nationals. Another debut for you guys, something new, a bit of an evolution as well, as that was one of the races for the Cup Karts South program, as was the Spring Nats. How'd things go at the Winter Nationals, running like right there on New Year's Eve weekend?
You know, it was a good race. We had some interesting obstacles. Weather, who would have ever thought that in Florida? We actually had an hour delay because there was so much fog that it got the track wet. So we actually ended up having to dry the track from that. So that was a new thing we'd never planned on for Florida. But it was a really good event. That track is very historic. It means a lot to a lot of people to have a big four-cycle race in Jacksonville. So we were really glad to be able to do that. It was a long weekend for a lot of people. That was the same week, we were right after Daytona Kart Week.
Yeah.
It was kind of a I think it's once every 8 years do the dates fall that way. Where that's possible, and we wanted to try it, see how it worked. People had a great time. Everyone who came up to me said that was awesome. That was a great week of racing. We need a break next time.
Right.
You know, Daytona's a long week for people. When we do a national program, it's a long weekend. So everybody had a really great time. The racing was excellent. Jacksonville, the way that track is laid out, it's great for four-cycle.
Agreed.
So yeah, it was an awesome event.
So what's that? Do I dare ask what it means for next year right now? Is it too early? Is it too early?
Yeah, that's too early.
You're kind of alluding to it. So let's. All right.
No. We haven't even started North yet. So
this is true. Haven't started the North Series
no,
yet.
I have not started scheduling next year.
Okay, so let's go. Obviously, the South Division runs on May the 13th, 14th, 15th. That's the finale at NOLA Motorsports Park. That's a fantastic track as well. Before we talk about the finale for the South program, let's talk about the Spring Nationals again. How'd that go for you back at Charlotte again? Obviously, a big debut last year, and it seems like that could be another race where it's one of these iconic four-cycle races, right? And more in the South as opposed to where we are up in Newcastle for the Grand Nationals.
Yeah, I mean, the first year that we did Charlotte, I wasn't sure what to expect. I can tell you when we were planning that race, we planned for 150 entries, and we got close to 300. So it was a little eye-opening, and we essentially got back to the same number that this year, which to us we thought was a win. We unfortunately had a scheduling conflict up against USPKS that we didn't catch in time to be able to adjust for it, and we now do share a lot of competitors. Yep. A lot of our racers race in both series. So
or mechanics.
And mechanics for that.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah,
a lot of race teams that do both. Yeah, there's guys in Orlando that would have been happy to be home in Charlotte.
Absolutely. You know, that's honestly one of the things that I was so impressed with, because although we had this big scheduling conflict, Nitro Kart was our biggest sponsor of that race last year. They helped us, you know, really foot the bill of getting all the staff there because it's a lot of flights. That's too far for any of my guys to drive. And when the schedule came out, you know, Nick realized that there was a scheduling conflict and he wasn't going to be able to bring the team because he had already committed all of his drivers to going to the USPKS race. But he still sponsored Spring Nationals. He still stayed committed to us to helping us pull that race off because he thought it was such an important event. So even missing all those drivers, which I guess it was probably about 40 or 45 drivers, we still had this pretty much the same number we had last year, plus or minus a couple. Again, racing was awesome. The weather was much better this time. We didn't see too many jackets or full snowsuits this year. So no, it was a great weekend. We're looking forward to doing it again next year.
I like to hear that. So finale for the South Series. Overall, how are you feeling about the South right now? It seems like there's a really good group of drivers that are part of it. You wrap things up at NOLA in the middle of May. Feeling good with the way the South program is kind of designed through the first, maybe half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, considering how the rate that North grew, it's been called a few things over the years, obviously, but we'll call it for right now North. There was a very slow, steady growth there. South has tripled that growth rate. They're getting event sizes now that it took us 6 years to get to. And that's really allowed us to look at facilities like NOLA, a place where, you can't afford to go to if you only got 40, 50 entries. But,
That's it.
when you're pulling 100 plus, you can look at going to a place like that. I'm excited to go there. NOLA is one of the bigger tracks that I haven't gotten to go to yet that I've always had on my list. So we're really excited to bring it there. The racing in South has been really, really good. We've gotten a really good core group of drivers now that are, following the series, telling their local club members about it. They're bringing new people with them. It's now to that point where it's kind of feeding on itself, and that's really what it takes.
Cole, I'll let you go in a second. I'll let you go in a second. I want, at least when you're doing it, the NCCA Final Four won't be there.
Yeah.
You can get a hotel.
David,
Yeah.
what do you got?
Good luck with that. I heard a lot of good, positive feedback about the Monticello racetrack. They said it was a great racetrack to be at. Obviously, the facilities are not Newcastle size, but they said the racetrack itself was great to be on.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have missed that race both times now. When we first put that on the schedule, the first year round, everyone was kind of rolled their eyes at us and what are you doing? This is, the facilities aren't good enough, blah, 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 whatever. By the end of that weekend, every driver at that place came up to Brett or Steve and said, you need to come back here next year. That is the funnest racetrack we've ever raced on. I think, and Gerald, you were there, but I think 80% of the races were photo finishes, just the way that the track is laid out, that it always sets it up where there's a chance for a pass in every lap. And that's awesome. That's really what Four Cycle is supposed to be about, is having close competitive racing, having a big breakaway and someone runs away with a race. I mean, yeah, it's great for them, but it's not the most entertaining thing in the world. Watching the races at Monticello is actually fun karting to watch.
That's awesome. All right.
It is. It mightn't be the best facility, but it's probably one of the best race tracks that I've seen for Four Cycle in a long, long time.
That's a big props there. Now, Greg, you guys are getting ready to go. Like you said, you're not thinking about 2023 yet or what you're going to do, because you guys start April 22nd, 23rd, 24th at Camden G&J Kartway in Ohio. How are things shaping up for the opening round of the North Series?
It's looking good. Entries, just like we always joke around every time, people always seem to enter a little bit slow.
That's right.
But we had, we're more entries than we had the last time we were there, which was granted a couple years ago, but we haven't even gotten to the last week is when everyone seems to enter, and we're well surpassed the number that we got there last time. So that's a great sign. The folks at G&J and OVK are being extremely helpful, helping us get everything set up. It's shaping up to be a really great event.
Hold on. Raymond Kibbin's ready to go. Looking forward to some awesome racing at G&J Kartway, one of the oldest tracks in the country. That's very cool. It is a legendary, iconic racetrack in the sport. There's no doubt about that.
Well, historic with the forming WKA there.
The forming, that's right. That's right.
Well, and I think
it's there now.
Yeah.
I think it's between G&J and Whiteland for who's the longest or the first track or something like that. I know that's a point of contention, but yeah, I mean, it's really neat to be able to take the groups there, because a lot of the racers from New York that are old guys from the Gold Cup days, I mean, when they come, they walk in, and all I do all weekend is hear stories about something that happened to them when they were 15 and racing there. Racing at a national at G&J, but hearing all those stories about where they came from and they're back in the sport now, that's one of the most rewarding things for Steve and I, because almost all of them were out of the sport for 15, 20 years, myself included. And having these people have the opportunity to come back, and it's cool.
I love it. That is awesome. So, of course, we can't talk CKNA about looking down the road to October for this year's Grand Nationals. Any outlook on that? Anything new? Anything, or is it just, hey, you know what? How big could it be? Is that kind of the feeling right now?
Yeah. How big is it going to be? That's kind of that's the $1 million question right now. I'll tell you, I've had a couple other promoters call me, sponsors asking me, what are we going to do for the format this year already? Because of things like Canada, Obviously, the growth that we've seen, they're all expecting the number to be a little bit bigger, and everyone's trying to figure out how that math's going to work. So it's a problem we're working on, but it's a great problem to have.
It is, no doubt.
You know, the last thing we ever want to do is do class caps or anything like that. But obviously, we have to figure out what we have to do to make sure that the event comes off well, that everyone gets a good amount of track time, because that's one of the biggest things that we always do is make sure when someone comes to one of our events, they actually get to see the track for more than 5 minutes in a whole weekend. So we're working on it. But
as long as their chain stays on.
Well,
Somebody puts oil in the engine.
Yeah, that too.
I will say this. I've got 27 races on my schedule this year, and one of them is the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals.
hey, we finally made it.
We're back. We were gonna last 2 years I was supposed to go, but COVID canceled races, and they always picked that weekend, which was horrible. So yeah, the David Cole versus Rob Howden battle continuing again. I want to run 2 classes. I think I want to run Masters and Legends this year.
There you go.
That sounds
God,
like
are you
fun.
that old?
I'm 53.
Oh man. All right. Well,
I can do it. Here's one for you. Let's go back to Gerald. I love this question because I love this racetrack too. Cup Karts Canada needs to put Shannonville on the schedule for 2023. Every race is a photo finish. I ran a couple of OKRA Grand Nationals back in the 90s. Literally, I want to say the first racetrack I ever announced a race at too. I think was there.
wow.
Roy Bryden handed me the mic there. Gerald, what do you think about that? Is there a thought about maybe?
I mean,
you gotta have growth in your mind.
oh yeah, big time. And you know, it's funny. That was probably the first track that we went to look for this year.
Really?
When we were looking at the race, we looked at Shannonville first. Unfortunately, we couldn't make the scheduling work. So the answer is yes, it's on the radar. There's a couple of tracks on the radar that's kind of not your traditional tracks that you would think of. But yes, next year, you know, when we made the deal with Greg for the deal up here, is we wanted to move to 3 events next year, so that we have the same amount of races as the South or the North. Yeah. So, you know, for the points deal, if we ever get into a North American, Can-Am, you know, just thinking outside the box or down the road, if everybody's on the same page, then it's so yeah, we will do 3 weekends next year.
And Gerald, I'd have to believe that obviously, you know, this thing didn't start until January, as you guys said. You know, and you started the Winter Nationals, took you a month to kind of get things rolling. You announced it, so you know, tracks are already locked. I would have a feeling that once this thing picks up momentum, which it surely will, there's going to be a lot more people knocking on your door, making phone calls, saying, "Hey, we'd love to host one of these events." Right? Yeah, you know that. You've been around long enough to realize that the phone's going to be ringing. Yeah,
and I mean, we want to make it, and like Greg spoke of, we want to go to tracks where four cycle racing is going to be good racing and you know, close and not running away with it. And so yeah, we're looking for expansion. You know. We got to walk before we run, or we actually got to probably crawl a little before we run. Luckily, I got Greg that told me he's made a ton of mistakes, so I get to learn off of his. It's definitely a good deal for me, so I can learn by his mistakes without having to make them myself. So
yeah, but let's put it. You've run races before. You have your own track, Gerald. That's one of the things I think we didn't come out of the gate with. It's not like you're just, hey, I'm a father of a racer or an engine builder, or you know, you have a kart shop. You've been selling karts for many years. You have a racetrack you've run, rental program, actual club races. So this is not something that you're new at.
No. And I actually I ran two street races here for a 2-year period each one. Okay. So yeah, I've organized a bunch, and I know what I kind of know what I want. Like I said, when I met Greg, and we were so like-minded that, you know, it's a good fit.
It's a great fit. This is.
I just want to make sure that you know, if everybody showed up in the back of a pickup truck and a pop-up tent, I'd be smiling from ear to ear.
Yeah,
you know, like that'd be a good day for me. So
I'm just, as a guy that's raced in Canada and the U.S., been doing it for 27 years, whatever it is. This is huge. I think this is really big news in terms of 2 crucial people in the sport working together. We don't always hear a lot about people working together, right? And they normally work against each other. This is pretty nice to have you guys actually working together to try to, you know, better the sport itself, especially at the grassroots level. You know, that the foundation of the sport as well.
Well, and it's one of those things where, I mean, there's absolutely no point in Gerald or myself trying to do this and go against each other or try to take entries from each other, which granted, it's the other side of the border. There wouldn't be a ton of that, but there's so little to be gained by not working together, but the opportunities that, once we get Canada up and running, the opportunities that it opens up, not just for the series, but for the racers. I mean, now truly these guys can have the opportunity to, with the same rules, the same package, to run tracks that they probably never considered as an option for something they could go race at. And they're going to be able to do it and know exactly what to expect when they get there. And that's kind of the whole goal that Gerald and I both agreed on, was that, we want these 4-cycle racers to feel like they're the show. They're the important ones at the track when they get there. And, making sure that, just obviously there's going to be little tweaks and differences between Canada and the U.S., but we want a U.S. competitor to be able to go up to Canada and, short of reading the supplemental rules, know exactly what's going to happen and, have a great time.
I asked you, Greg, about the Winter Nationals for next year, and you kind of balked me on that one. This could be a little early for Gerald, but I love this. Could we eventually see a CKNA Canada East and West division?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're open for we're open for it. Like I said, we have to crawl before we walk or run. But the feeling I get right now and the response I've gotten, I think it, if we do our job right, people come, they have fun. It has to grow. Another thing that I'd speak on that I think is really neat in this deal is there's not very little anymore for the 4-cycle guy in the winter in Florida. And this opens up basically a Florida winter tour for 4-cycle guys. You got your Winter Nationals, you got your Monticello, you got your Spring Nationals. So all of a sudden you got a three race gig where we can take people from Canada that want to come down to the sunny south and do a holiday or something. In fact, at the CKNA Spring Nationals, I believe there was 12 from Canada come down, Greg.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Head of ball. And a lot of them guys were running in, they weren't running at the front of the pack, and they still come to me and said, that they thoroughly enjoyed themselves. And that's the part I really like about that CKNA program is whether you're 15th or 25th, there's someone to race against. And you don't always have to be racing for first to have the ball.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because people think, the U.S., Charlotte, it's 24 hours from Toronto to Miami. It's 6 hours less, 18 hours to Jacksonville. Yeah. It's only 12 hours to get to Charlotte. And we did that a lot for the North American Karting Championships back in the 90s. A ton of Canadians went down, whether it was the Chiovides, the Sodi Kart guys. A lot of guys went down to that event. I went down with them many times as well. Yeah. And that's it. Again, that 12-hour driving distance is one day, which I think, especially to get the heck out of the cold temperatures in Canada, I think you're going to see a lot of drivers potentially load up the Briggs and head south. I love that, Gerald. You're right. That's just another connection, right? It's bringing the CKA brand and the culture up there, and they're really opening their eyes to the other opportunities they have to race in the off season.
Yeah. No. I think it's going to be really cool next winter. So,
David, anything else to add? Are we ready to wrap this one up?
No, I think that pretty much covers all the questions. Greg's not going to race anymore. Canada's going to have an East and a West. So, yeah.
You fixed all our problems.
Well, hold on. Are we doing just Ontario, just Quebec, just BC? Or that's the other.
Oh,
Gerald's like, slow down.
Let's get this
one over. Let's get June 24th over with.
There you go.
Right.
Gerald, this is what happens anytime I get together with these guys, is they always try getting me to commit to things that really we might not either be ready to do or ready to talk about doing.
It's a hot seat.
I don't know how they necessarily hear some things, but they usually try to ask me something that we weren't ready to talk about yet.
You mean? Oh, wait, hold on. You mean like a Cup Karts North America street race, right?
You tried that one last time.
Great idea.
Maybe Gerald can help with that since he's done street races.
There you go.
They're a lot of work, man. A lot of work.
Hold on. It's not April 1st. It's not April Fool's Day, right?
No.
Steve Vermeer has a kart. He wants to race. What's happening here?
So Steve bought himself a brand new kart. Yep. Tyler, my
Yes.
son, actually raced it one time just to kind of shake the cobwebs out of the thing and help him
That's
get it all set up.
fantastic.
And he was at home this morning putting Steve's own seat in the cart. And his plan is he is going to haul it around to the races. We have room in the trailer, and he might jump out there one weekend.
That is awesome, Steve. I love that. That's fantastic news. All right, folks. June 24th, 25, 26, Point de Lac up in Quebec. As Gerald said, a lot of cool stuff around the event itself. The camping, all the stuff that happens there. July 22nd, 23rd, 24th. You may see me there as well if Gerald continues to hound on me.
He will be there.
Goodwood Kartways, one of the legendary racetracks in North America for sure. If you actually look at that layout, it's very similar to South Bend and very similar to, what's the other one, David?
Badger
Car Club. But it was Goodwood was there first. It's a great track. A lot of elevation changes, fun track to run on. And again, Gerald, and you mentioned this, and I'll cap with this. One of the things about Goodwood is it's a 4-cycle racetrack. They do run 2-cycle there, I know that. But it's a really 4-cycle kind of track.
It's really, really good 4-cycle track. Like a really good,
Yeah. Agreed.
So there'll be some
big
races.
things happening, folks, in the sport here. Operation Grassroots, the whole Briggs 206 program. I think we've all been very, very fortunate seeing what we've had over the last couple of years with CKNA. Greg talked about the fact of how they kind of grew that North program, which was kind of an East and West deal at one point, and found itself into North, then the South program, and it's growing. And I think the reason why you're seeing so much stuff happening in the South and so much more quicker growth in the North is because Greg and Steve have laid the groundwork with that brand, right? The CKNA brand, the Grand Nationals, of course, getting everybody super excited. So all in all, I think we're in a really good place in terms of this level of 206 racing, and it's really cool to see it come to Canada as well. I look forward to seeing what happens at Point de Lac. Thanks, guys. This has been awesome.
No, we appreciate you having us and all the support you guys have given us over the years, because the biggest thing about this is just getting the word out that we're doing family-friendly racing. That's it's not rocket science, but it's a great time, and everybody that comes usually says that's what we've been looking for.
It is. It's just the atmosphere is amazing. I said when we were at the one Grand Nationals I was able to come to, it reminded me of those first couple of Super Nationals I went to, where people that were there realized that they were there at the start of something that was going to be huge, which obviously it's become massive as it is. David, are you ready to get beat again at the Grand Nationals, or?
Not this year. No, not this time. This year I will finish and on the lead lap for sure too.
I want to hear that, Dave. That's fantastic. I hate seeing you on the side of the track. It just hurts me every time I go by you. It sucks.
Hey, I beat Mike Smith. He was on the side of the racetrack.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll let you guys go. We'll wrap things up. Gerald, Greg, thank you so much. Stay in the studio. We'll chat with you when we cap things off. David will drop them out here. What a great show that was. And for those of you, of course, who are 4-cycle racing, you know how big it is. The Cup Karts North America North program starting very shortly. What is it, David? April 22nd, 23rd, 24th. Camden, a couple of weeks away, right? Yeah, not week. This weekend, but the weekend after. Yeah. So that'll get the North Series started. All the run all to the Grand Nationals, which is going to be absolutely massive this year. That first weekend of October. It's just David, we've watched it happen, right? It's been so cool to watch it develop, watch that Grand Nationals grow. And I think this new move into Canada with that culture, with the same thing. And of course, you can see the passion that Gerald has for the program. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing.
It's kind of what people have wanted. They wanted a standardized rule structure across the country. Now we can possibly have one that's going to be across the continent with North America, including United States and Canada with Cup Karts North America. And so, and again, it's focused at grassroots racers. It's focused on, club racers. It's focused on guys who even want to race nationally and can come down and race Briggs wherever and whenever they want and have fun and be able to be competitive. Again, club guys are just as fast as national guys. So it's a great mix because the Briggs and Stratton engine package does a phenomenal job of kind of putting it all on the driver rather than how much money you have or how much testing you've done. It boils down to being a driver. And now we have these events that are just phenomenal. And again, continue to expand.
Yeah, great stuff for sure. And again, kudos to Greg and Gerald for getting together down there in what was a fateful January to get things fired up here for Cup Karts, Cup Karts North America Canada division. Make sure to follow the Canada division on Facebook. That way you'll be hooked up with everything they're doing. I'm sure there'll be some kind of a newsletter, whatever it happens. We're obviously in contact with them all the time. As soon as more news comes out, we'll let you know. But again, first race, June 24, 25, 26, Pointe du Lac in Quebec. Cup Karts Canada getting things fired up. Thank you so much for joining us here, folks, on a Wednesday. We do appreciate it. On behalf of David Cole, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.